Hi. In this video clip, I want to talk about material you can find in Chapter 8. Chapter 8 deals with what I would call contemporary information systems today. These are systems that are very commonplace. You'll find that in the last decade or so, these are the kinds of systems that most businesses are using. I'll start with talking about the supply chain. Supply chain is a concept you've heard probably a whole lot about lately if you've been watching the news at all, because they talk about the supply chain of the medications that are coming in from China. Supply chain is simply a way of having a network of suppliers that enable people to receive and order goods online in a manner that will be extremely efficient in terms of delivery time, in terms of maintenance of inventory levels, all types of aspects that can make businesses within the supply chain a lot more efficient than they probably could have been before we had this concept. It's called a chain because it's a series of linkages. It's a network of suppliers to their respective customers that enable them to make everybody in the chain much more efficient than they could have been beforehand. The idea of a supply chain is really has its roots in the electronic data interchange. And I think we talked a little bit about EDI before we got into this online stuff, where EDI, electronic data interchange, businesses, in order to put in an order, would have this set form that they could type in orders. They could make that way people who receive the orders didn't have to receive and type them back in, because in the old days, order of some materials would go in. You would have to type up the order, put it in the mail. The receiving clerk at your supplier would get it. They'd take the order out, type it up, put it in their system. Just a lot of redundancy in terms of the amount of work that was done. The idea behind the EDI simply was this. Online, you could go in and type in a standard format your order. It would go immediately into your supplier's system. It would generate all the paperwork necessary to supply the order, and then they could fill up the order and send you a billing electronically. It made things a whole lot easier. Well, the concept of supply chain just goes beyond that. It creates these linkages of suppliers to suppliers to suppliers, as we'll see here. And the idea is it helps us get information from the beginning of the supply chain through and including the final customer. And this is really the concept. Supply chain, there's two basic aspects of it. One is for the actual planning of supplies. The other is the execution of delivery of the supplies, as you can see if you follow the slides that I've given you here. The supply chain, I have a picture of what a supply chain would look like. This, in this case, is some farm produce produced by the farmer, transported via the farm to a warehouse where it's held, transported then to a factory where it's processed, transported again to another warehouse where it's held until it's finally sent to the customer. The example I generally use is with a coffee cup. I'll oftentimes in class take in a coffee cup. Here's my coffee cup. And I ask students, what's in a cup? Well, they say it's coffee. Of course it's coffee. We know that. But where does coffee come from? We don't grow coffee in Indiana. There's only one state in the union that grows coffee. That's Hawaii. So we get coffee that has to be shipped in to the states, to the contiguous states. So the coffee grower grows the beans, go to a local marketplace where they sell the beans. The local marketplace collects a lot of beans. They ship it to a port coming into the United States. That port then would in turn collect lots of coffee. The coffee is sold in the marketplace. Generally go up to Chicago. We have the Chicago Board of Trade. You can buy massive amounts of coffee there. It's a mouthful. Where processors can buy the coffee. It's shipped to the processors, more transportation. The processors do their thing. They ship it to a warehouse. The warehouse then ships it to a store where we go to the store and buy it. The idea of a supply chain, therefore, is that everybody included from the grower all the way down to the consumer is included in the supply chain. And what this does, it creates this linkage of activities so that people know when they're going to order, how much they're going to order, and it goes up and down the supply chain, this information. Now, the thing that makes a supply chain work is free flow of information up and down the chain. Going upstream are orders, as we will see. It's this linkage that allows us as a consumer. I go to a store. The store forecasts, they have a pretty good idea how much of a particular product they need. They forecast that. Each store, let's say a chain like Walmart, each store keeps track of how much coffee they have so they can project how much coffee they're going to have of a particular brand. They then can put in an order with, let's say it's, Folgers. They put in an order with the Folgers company. Folgers company then can plan on how much production they're going to have. They can then figure out how many metric tons of coffee beans of a particular type they're going to buy. It just goes up the chain. Coming down the chain is the execution. This is when shipments are arriving so that people can maintain inventory levels. So the idea behind the supply chain is we have this linkage of the suppliers to their customers. Each in turn is a supplier to another customer until we get to the final customer. The idea here is that if we have an efficient supply chain, we can reduce the amount of effort necessary in terms of ordering. We can automate the orders going upstream. We can also get information coming downstream as to when deliveries are, so we can plan for inventory levels. We can plan for outages. I have a couple of slides here that show you the concept of going upstream. Upstream, we have orders, and if we have returns, we can send information about returns. We can make payments, shipping those upstream. Going downstream, if we put in an order, we can get approximate dates. They can tell us what the capacity, how much inventory they have or stock they have on hand, or when they can deliver, terms of payments, all kinds of information that is absolutely necessary for people not only to plan, but also in the execution of the supply chain. So the concept of supply chain is very simple. If we let people know what we want, and if they let us know when we are getting, so we meet supply and demand, then everybody can be at a peak of efficiency. The suppliers can have the appropriate inventory levels, the appropriate manufacturing levels, depending upon where they are in the supply chain. We can make sure that we get inventory levels just at the time we want it. This is good old just-in-time inventory again. So that if we can meet the supply and the demand at perfect points in time, everybody will have efficient movement of product. We'll have efficient levels of inventory. We'll keep our cash flow going. These are the things that make business work. Now, there's some issues we have to understand. For instance, supply and demand projections are difficult. We talked, I think, one of the last couple of videos I made here, we talked about the projection, the idea of prediction. Prediction's difficult. But if we have good predictive systems, we can set inventory levels that we know that are going to be reasonable and appropriate for what our demand is going to be. We don't want too much stock. We don't want too little stock. We want just the right amount of stock. The supply chain helps everybody up and down the chain to meet those levels, and that's critical if we can do it. But there's issues. For instance, I have listed some of the potential conflict of objectives between various aspects of the business. Marketing wants, they don't ever want to have a stock out. They want to always have plenty. Operations, production, they want to make sure that we're efficient in what we do, but they don't want too much inventory because too much inventory is dead stock. Distribution, they always want to make sure that we're working at maximum efficiency. So there are all kinds of issues that come into play in making good predictions. The key here is if we can get the proper flow of information up and down the supply chain, if we can make sure that we're getting all the materials we need in a proper manner, and if we can make prompt payments, everybody in the chain is going to be much better off. So, the idea behind having a good supply chain is pretty simple. If I have good trading partners and everybody in the supply chain is accurate in their estimates of predictions, if they are accurate in making the delivery dates and other information about when the product's going to arrive, everybody in the supply chain wins. It's a win-win situation. As this one slide I put in here said, in many cases, competition today is not just business against business, but it's supply chain against supply chain. The more efficient the supply chain, the better off things are. I have included a slide here that talks about how information systems help facilitate the supply chain management. I've listed several items. I would like for you to go through those and make sure you understand them. But essentially what it is that by having good free flow of information, of accurate information, we can know exactly what we need, when we need it, and when the money is, when the delivery dates are, everything that is necessary to make the business work much more efficiently is included in the information that we have in the supply chain. The downside of a supply chain, there is a downside. All of the trading partners within the supply chain have to make sure that they are current with the information that they have and they are accurate with the information they have. Inaccuracies in the supply chain can cause havoc. One of the things that is mentioned about supply chain is the bullwhip effect. The bullwhip effect simply is this. Any information that is entered that is erroneous, the further away from the source of that erroneous information, the more magnified the effect becomes. It's kind of like having a bullwhip. A bullwhip, you take the handle and you give it a movement like that. But the tip of the bullwhip is moving much faster than the handle is because it gets further and further and further away from the initial movement. Same thing is true when you're talking about supply chain. Any erroneous information entered in the supply chain is going to have a very detrimental effect the further away it gets. Okay? If people use the supply chain properly, it becomes one of the best tools for including effective and efficient delivery systems in business. The next topic I want to talk about is the concept of customer relations management systems, or CRMs as they're referred to. In CRM, the idea behind a CRM is simply this. We understand if I'm a marketer, I need to have and make sure that I have good customer support. One of the things I talked about in class early on is the importance of maintaining good customer relations. Well, the purpose of a good customer relations management system is to support good marketing management. Good marketers understand that we have to make sure that we get the right product to the right people, the right place, the right time, at the right price. Simple enough, but the execution is very important. So the idea behind a customer relations management system is helping us understand the consumer better, our customer better, making sure that we know what the customer wants and making sure that we are getting what the customer wants. We are getting it to them in an efficient and effective manner at a reasonable cost, a reasonable price to the customer. Making sure that our customers are being serviced from the time they come in to purchase until they have gotten what they want and they're satisfied with what they have. So a CRM, in terms of information systems, basically is, as you can see from this slide that I've given you, what it is, it's a cross-functional information system. It is a way in which the business can double check, make sure that everybody in the business understands what the customer wants, what the customer needs, and how best to service our customer. It is an information-based system. It's based a lot on data analytics, because remember, when we talked about data analytics, one of the prime purposes of data analytics is to make sure that we maintain good customer relationships in terms of prediction of what customers want, and to make sure that we are supplying them with the needs that they want. So the idea is basically to help the organization make sure that the customer is getting what the customer wants. We want to make sure that the business meets the customer's needs in the best possible manner. So we do this by using data about the customer. One of the things that a good CRM will do is make sure that we are on target with who our best customers are, make sure that we can gain new customers for this business, to make sure that the customers we have are satisfied with what we're giving them, and to make sure that we are producing and providing exactly what people want so that our business can grow. This is the key. We want to make sure that the customer is serviced properly. So, one of the things businesses have to know is who do we want as customers, and how can we go about getting them? So a good customer relations management system will be a data-centric system that allows us to go through and look at what people want, how people will best be serviced by what we have, and what's the best strategy we can have to get that target market. How can we best reach them? What channels of communication are best to reach the customers that we're desiring? Any information that's going to help us in terms of keeping our customers happy. A good CRM has all of the data we need to make sure that we are servicing our target market in the best possible manner. How do we do that? The use of data analytics is part of it. We collect data about the customers. How do we collect data about our customers? Well, we talked about market basket analysis. What we do, for instance, is if we are in retail, one of the best ways we can do this is to provide our customers with a customer card. I'm sure most of you have probably one or two customer cards where you filled out some information about yourself some demographics. They give you this card that you can get a nice discount. So every time you go to the grocery store, if you go to Payless here in town, you can have this Payless card and you can scan that card and you get a discount. Well, that's good, because what you're doing when you're scanning the card, you're getting a discount, true, but what they're getting is information. They're getting data about you. When you scan that card, they know who you are because you filled out that information about yourself. Not that they care specifically about you. They do, but not as much as the general demographics of who you are. They know your age group. They know approximately where you live, zip code, whatever. They have all this information that you've given them. Not only that, but when you buy something, because of the digital checkout system, we now have TPS. Don't forget TPS. They know exactly what you bought, when you bought it. They know how you paid, how much you paid, everything. They have all of this data. And by analyzing these data, they can make sure that they follow and know specifically who the customers are that they got. They can also try to discern who will be the best customers for them. How can I increase? They can use this data to determine how they can make better information to run their business. This is the key. How can I service my customer better? If they know the customer, what they can do is then, no pun intended, customize service for you to make you feel like, gee, one of the best CRM systems I can think of is Amazon. Amazon tracks everything you do. They know what you bought, when you bought it, how much you bought, where, all of this information they have about you. So they can, by having this information, when I check in my Amazon account, it says, "Hi, Tom, glad to see you back. Here's some items you might want. We saw you looked at this. Here's a similar item. Are you still interested in this product?" All of this, so that they give me this marvelous view of things that I might want. Now, do I need them? Not necessarily. But sometimes it piques my interest and makes me say, "Oh, I think I might want to go to there." So the idea behind this CRM is very simple. Give the customer the opportunity to make sure that everything that they have is available for them. So by having data about me, they can track other people who are similar to me or you. And what they can use this information for is to get new customers, get better customers, make sure that the customers are getting what they want, making sure the customers are satisfied, and make sure they understand what they are doing. The idea of doing this simply is that by maintaining a good customer base, knowing the customer from end to end, from the time you buy something until you're done with it, you're satisfied. Because if you're satisfied, what's going to happen? You keep coming back. And that's what we need. Everybody in the organization needs to understand the customer is the key. Without customers, no business. We know that. So it's critically important that businesses have a good customer relations management system. The final topic in this chapter, in chapter 8, is this concept of ERP. I want to talk a little bit about ERP simply because it is the way in which businesses more and more and more are establishing their information systems. Critically important. In the old days, traditionally what we did is if we had an information need, we'd build a system to meet that need. Finance people would get finance information. We'd build a system for the finance people. The accounting people, that's generally where we started, would get accounting information. Then marketing would say, hey, we need some marketing information. So we'd build a marketing system for them. CRM wasn't quite as robust as what we have today, but we'd build systems so that they could track their customers better. Operations or production would want an operation system. So we build all these systems. And if you look at the slide about business functions, what we found what we'd do is we'd have a HR system, an accounting system, marketing system, finance system, accounting system, sometimes were together, manufacturing system. All of these systems stand alone. Didn't communicate well. Matter of fact, didn't communicate together at all. So if I wanted information, and I'm in the marketing department, and I want information from, say, operations or production, I'd have to get on the phone, call the manager, production manager, and say, hey, what's the level of widgets that you're producing? Because I think I'm gonna have a big order of widgets, and I gotta know. The guy says, well, I'll run a report. I'll get it to you when I get around to it. That's how it worked. You had all these separate islands of information. Almost no communication between these businesses. And as you've seen, a business doesn't work that way. The concept of enterprise resource planning is very simple. We recognize that businesses are process flows. We have inputs that are processed into value-added outputs that we take to the customer. That's how it works. So the ERP system tries to mirror this concept by having a data-centric information system where we take all of the organizational's data into a centralized data, what appears to be centralized data source that every aspect of the business has access to. So if you look at the ERP slide, and this is the ERP way slide, you'll see that the way the ERP systems are organized is so that everything represents this process flow. It's one enterprise, not islands of functions, but one process flow. Yes, we have to have operations. Yes, we have to have marketing. Yes, we have to have finance. We saw that early on. You have to have accounting. You have to have management overseeing the whole thing. Well, in order to do this efficiently, the ERP system basically integrates the entire information system so that all business functions are drawing from the same information system. This makes sense. We don't have multiple information systems. We have one system that meets all needs. Now, granted, it becomes pretty complex, but the idea here, the key here is that instead of having isolated systems, we've integrated them. They become one. And this integrated, by having database technologies, which we've talked about, we can supply all of the informational needs of the organization through this one system. And that makes things a lot smoother for everybody. So what we have found in the last 15, 20 years, we've had ERP systems that are working, that by having this data-centric approach, all of the data of the organization is in the same place that everybody in the organization can use these data, generating information that they need at any point in time, where they are, whenever they need it. This is the key. This is what makes a good information system good, is by having all of the information of the system in one central location that everybody can draw on. So the concept of ERP is really pretty simple. All of the business functions draw from the same data. Therefore, when one person updates the data, it's updated for everybody. So if I'm in production and I want to know what marketing's doing, all I have to do is go to the system. That information will be there. If the marketing people, as they get orders and as they make their projections of demand, are within the system. And a good CRM system will do that. And production has access to that system because it's part of the ERP. So, why have ERP? Well, it's very simple. Managers in all areas of the business and overseeing the business know exactly what's going on at any point in time within the business. Okay? We got one system, one solution for everybody. Makes a lot of sense. It certainly speeds up any information flow within the organization. It makes sense that everybody can get this, including information from our suppliers and our customers. Now, this goes back to supply chain. If we're in a good supply chain, we got to have free flow of information between our suppliers and our customers because we're a link in the chain. And therefore, a good enterprise resource system will be able to supply information that our suppliers need and information that our customers need so that we have this flow through the organization that is necessary. Okay? I've included a little slide that talks about how we got here, and I'll just give that to you just for your own edification. Basically, it's a concept that started a long time ago with just-in-time inventory. People recognize dead inventory is just dead money. It's just sitting there. We're losing money. So it went for the idea of just-in-time, which meant they had to have predictions and planning. The projections and planning went into the production, and they expanded the concept of just-in-time to materials resource planning. And everybody saw this was working quite well in operations, production, so let's incorporate it for the whole business. And that's basically how we got to ERP. But the whole concept here is very simple. Take all of the business functions and put them into one system. One business, one enterprise, one information system. It works as long as everybody in the organization is very, very conscientious about using the system properly. As you can see from the slide on the ERP expectations, the system and the software needs to be modular. Modular simply means this. We have various components of the system that meet various business needs. For instance, we have needs for finance and accounting. So we'll be a finance and accounting module. We'll see that in a few slides here. Operations needs operation. Marketing needs customer relations management system. So all of these are become various parts of the ERP system. So in order for ERP to work, we have this unified platform, one system, one thing, with multiple modules that will allow us to meet our business's particular needs. For instance, we have a finance and accounting system, we'll have operations, we'll have customer relations, we'll have human resources, we'll have asset management, we'll have supply chain. Anything that impacts our business will have a particular module. And as you build these systems, one of the things that you can do, and one of the things you'll see, is that you can, as you purchase these systems, you purchase the right module. A number of years ago, Ball State went to an ERP system. And we did it. The integration of the system was modular. The first module we put into our system was the finance and accounting system. Then after we had that, we brought in a student support section. We brought in a administrative piece. We brought in a part for scheduling of classes. There are all these different modules that fit together. you have a couple of pictures here that show one of them's of a puzzle where you have various pieces of the puzzle that you put together, and you put together the modules you need to support your business. Now, not all businesses are the same. We know that. Businesses are all different. So the beauty of an ERP system is that you can go to an ERP vendor. These are systems you wouldn't want to try to develop by yourself typically, unless you're an amazingly large business. But you would go to a vendor who has ERP software for sale, and you would purchase the modules you need. You would integrate the modules that you need and build them piece by piece until you get a complete and total system working for your business. There are some challenges. It's you got to make sure that the pieces that you need from the supplier you're getting your ERP system from are available. These systems are not easy to put together. They're expensive. They are very expensive initially. But once the systems are in place, then you get some tremendous advantages. And I have a slide that lists a bunch of the advantages. I don't want to go through that necessarily because for time purposes here in this video. But I want to make sure that you read the various advantages because they are tremendous. Now, the potential benefits, next slide, talks about all the kinds of things that will make the business work much more effectively if, indeed, we put in an ERP system. Internal as well as external benefits. The downside of ERP is pretty simple. They're expensive. Takes time to get them in place, no question about that, if you have it in-house. Oftentimes, you have to change processes to fit the system. A lot of businesses don't like that. They like the process, they like the way they're doing things. But a good ERP system typically has best practices. And if it has best practices, it's good sometimes to change the way we do business to meet those practices. We may have some pet systems that we've fallen in love with, and they don't integrate with this system. That can be problematic. There are sometimes vendors are a little shady. Early on, this isn't so much anymore. Most of the vendors are very reliable. But one of the things I've listed on the slide of risks is the one vendor problem. If you have a sole system, one system running your business, and that vendor goes out of business, you're in trouble. You're in big, big, big trouble because the last thing in the world you want is an orphaned system. Orphaned systems where the support vendor is out of business. You don't want that. There are some issues with having a singular system. If a system goes down, as we saw early on, that can cause some problems. By having all the data located in a singular system, it creates some security risk. We'll be talking about security in the next video that I produce. Very important that we have a secure information system because we know what happens when the information system goes down. The business stops, and that's not good. So the disadvantages are good, but the beauty of a good ERP system is simply this. Once it's in place and once it's up and running, it is so much more efficient and effective for the business that it's worth the time and the effort it takes to put a good ERP system into place. ERP systems support supply chain, they support customer relations, they support every aspect of what the business needs. Now, in smaller businesses and medium-sized businesses, oftentimes couldn't afford these. But with the cloud and with cloud ERP systems, these systems now are available for almost any size of business. ERP is far and away the best way that we currently have of providing information for a business environment.